Yo, what's up, guys? This is ENTP Nurture here. Here, I have my very good friend Deon, who's also an ENTP, but a more introverted kind. He's consume, sleep, play, blast, MF audio, just like me. But he's an energy dom, and I'm an info dom. So today, so tell me, so that's one big difference, right? I'm an info dom, you're an energy dom. What does that look like? Energy dom, conserving energy or being aware of energy. What does that look like?
Uh, well, I say for the more introverted energy dom, specifically me, it really looks like being mindful of how much effort things take. It's kind of sucks, but I definitely hear the sleep reports from other energy doms that are more introverted, like, God, I'm tired, or this is going to take too much time or effort. Um, that's the main thing. And I'm really sensitive to like how much I've done to like my sleep in general. Like how much have I eaten? Like if I don't do those things, the self-care stuff, I'm kind of useless. Whereas I see the info doms, it's like if they're more on the extroverted side, they'll kind of there isn't as much balance and the amount of effort throughout the day. It's like go, go, go and crash sometimes. Whereas I usually see the crash coming and I try to avoid it as best I can.
When was the last time you crashed?
Oh man. Well, I would say the last time was like several years ago when I was writing my dissertation. Like there's a deadline and I had to only you could only get so much done in a day, which also meant that I had to do more than I usually would to meet certain deadlines. So, it's that was definitely periods of crashing for me, like not being able to do all my normal routine stuff to make sure I'm good energy level.
So, what does it look like after you crash? So, you did your dissertation, you crashed, and then what does it look like afterwards?
Dude, intense sleep. I'm talking like 12, 13 hours. It's just, and before the crash, though, I can tell it's happening just because I get really irritable and sluggish. I think the older I've gotten, the better I've known like how to manage it and make sure. It almost sounds like I've got some sort of health problem, but I promise it's not that. It's just like this intense need to keep my energy like baseline okay. Um, yeah, and as far as I don't know how to explain it other than like comparing it to other types I've interacted with. Because the more
Mhm.
extroverted energy DOMs, they're they're more they'll do a little bit more than me, but I think they're also more aware of how much effort things take, or like being kind of goofy and not taking things seriously sometimes.
I don't see a benefit in taking things goofy. Do you do that?
Well, I have my moments. It's like for example, like I'm a researcher, and at the end of the day, like I just feel like you gotta step back from what you're doing just so you can be of sound body and mind to actually deal with what the situation is. Um, I'm not really sure how infodoms would approach it, but um, sometimes I go back and forth on how much I believe the whole like being not taking things seriously versus taking the information too seriously. But what I would say is I don't really get hung up and stressed out about it. Even when I was writing my dissertation, the actual act of doing the work stressed me out more than the actual comprehension of the material in front of me.
I have that too. For me, the consume is the easy part. Doing the SI, doing the sensory is the hard part. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, consume is like, I remember during that period of my life having everything up here, what I needed to focus on. but stressing out about how to organize it and present it in a way that other people can comprehend. The blast stuff, which I'm blast last, so
Last, huh?
yeah.
How do you see it affecting your life? I mean, you're 32.
Yeah, I would say it's much at a earlier stage of my life, much more so, typical procrastination. Um, I'm talking like really bad procrastination, like the night before. But, being experiencing that enough, you just get sick and tired of being sick and tired of procrastinating. So, I would get better and better at getting things started sooner, or at least planning, okay, by this date, you're going to have the outline written or something. Um, and then I can see the blast last showing up in conversations, and I'm more likely to sit and listen than to kind of jump in, like on Discord and the servers, voice chat. I'm more likely to just hang out and listen and like drop some troll line and then jump back out than to keep it going.
Do you feel that's because you're trying to conserve energy?
I think that's part of it, but the other part is I tend not to want to blast until I have a unique perspective to bring. I definitely see a lot of the don't want to go over known information and share.
Mm-hmm.
To me, I'm like, okay, we already know that. I tend to want to sit with whatever we're talking about and come up with my own take.
Mm-hmm. So do you feel like every last animal has this need that, okay, I'll do my last animal if the perspective is unique enough? Or do you feel the goal itself is having a unique worldview or an ideology?
Well, I don't know if it applies to every function, but as far as blast goes and being with my particular functions, it really comes from thinking that the tribe already knows or they should know. And I'm later in life, I'm experiencing like they all don't know. And because they sometimes they haven't done the consume or they just are focused on their box of things. But I really experienced that when I was in the later stages of grad school, like learning how to blast in a way that's SF blast, like reaching everyone, um, which meant doing the organization first. And that's the other part. For me, I sometimes might not blast immediately just because I'm not sure about how to structure my thoughts first, because I don't like rambling.
You say you don't like rambling. Have you rambled in the past and you stopped doing it, or is it something you never did?
I don't know if I can give a honest answer to that because I just haven't. I'll have to ask someone that knows me well, but I'm really sensitive to because I don't like hearing people just go on a rant that doesn't go anywhere. And I've seen it in other blast people. They'll talk, and then they'll trail off, and then it's over. And when I've started to notice that and trying to type other people in the class and outside of the class and stuff, and I'm trying to get better at just checking in with the tribe. Like when I was in grad school, it was really important to make sure if everyone's quiet and doesn't have questions at various points in your discussion, then it's probably not a good sign. That means they're not interested, they can't follow you, that kind of stuff. So that was kind of like my preparation and getting my blast together.
Mm-hmm. Fascinating.
Because when I see the blasters, people that just have blast higher than me, sometimes I'm like, I wonder how they're so confident in sharing what they're sharing. And then I realize, okay, this is known information for them, and it's like not that deep sometimes. Uh, Whereas with me, I'll just be gathering all day, but I'm not necessarily organizing it
Mm-hmm.
until I've had the moment to myself. And sometimes physically actually done the organization of, okay, this is related to this. It's very it's very sensory like too. Like I'll need to like write it all out and some sort of outline, specific thoughts of mine on a hobby or my work stuff.
What do you feel SF Blast is from your perspective?
Uh, that's a tough one. I think for me, it really tends to look like I'm thinking about it from the perspective of like some of the EJs that I know that have SF Blast, and to me, it's more like sharing details and facts in a way that is reachable to everyone. Like I'm not really sure how that shows up in me particularly, but I would say for me, it's when in the work that I've done, it's like you can't just give people the facts and the details. You got to tell them why it matters. And when I think of it from that perspective, that to me is more SF Blast. Like facts and details aren't important until they have context, and not all the facts and details are always important. It's just what's important to get them all on the same page. I'm sure
Yeah.
someone out there probably disagrees with me.
The funny part is I don't understand SF Blast. I mean, I don't see it in myself. Well, I do see it sometimes, but
Hmm.
I don't feel all my blast is SF. I feel that usually it's like a lot of consume or a lot of like sleep that I've like built up framework.
Well, like I haven't really contemplated it much in terms of SF Blast, but Blast in general because it's last in me. I focused a
Mm.
lot on that even before I got into OPS, and it really Blast with SI for me really just focuses on continuity in sharing of information, like a beginning, a middle, and an end. And I think before I really started to focus on that in grad school, it was, it's nothing was worse to me than having someone sit in a discussion of mine or a presentation and can't follow what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I have
That's
that.
just so painful. And I can track it and see it. I know what to look for in the audience. So I had a boss. I think he was some sort of um, probably some sort of INTJ. Um, he reminded me a lot of was it Ocasio Cortez kind of. So the way she would sit there and like grill people, he kind of had that vibe. So sitting through several years of that was kind of helpful in getting that together.
What else did you do to improve your blast? Like, what did you find helpful?
I think it really came from just working through all of the other functions. So I'm TI Savior and uh, NE, so that means that the SI was a problem. It really meant looking like taking the time to organize what things I needed to blast and running it by people before getting to the point where, so like, say I had to do a presentation, I would, do the organization first in great detail, not the whole like, not this half-assed, like jot things down, but like get it detailed and run it by people sometimes that weren't experts in what you're talking about and people that were, just to get as many perspectives as possible to see where are the sticking points that you're losing people, like.
Mm.
And
Do you try to keep a track of the FE when, so let's say, reach out to 10 people. So what are you exactly gathering? What information are you gathering? Is it the FE? Like,
that's a good question.
how do you feel about it? How do you feel about this?
Well, what I'm looking for is, do they understand my overarching points, because when I did a lot of presentations and still do, what I'm not looking for them to understand every little piece of data um, at the end of the talk. I want them to be able to understand the overarching themes. So, can they understand the continuity of the entire? thing I'm blasting because I'm responsible for making sure they get the details when the data comes up. I'm speaking from the point of a scientist because
Yeah.
that's what I know. Because like they'll end up seeing things that they've never seen on the slides, and that's okay. And I'll walk them through that. But the message is what really needs to stay with them instead. So when I would do discussions, I train people currently, and I teach them how to give presentations. And some of them would do things like have very generic titles on their slides and stuff. And I was like, okay, the problem with doing this is people are going to be trying to comprehend your slide and the data first. Like tell them the conclusion first so that they know what to look for. Like tell them what to look for. Don't make them have to work. And I think that's a lot of what SF Blast for me is. Like do a little bit of the work so that they can uh, just do the heavy lifting so they don't have to work so hard.
So the message you said, right? What does that look like in at least in your profession?
Um, okay, so I'll use my dissertation as an example, and I'll stay away from the gritty details. But so I was really interested in describing a certain event that was happening in these patients. I had a hypothesis that the reason why their cancer wasn't going away was because some of the cells had actually changed their identity. So that was the message. And I at several points I would describe that in a slide, and then the data in the other slides would go into more detail and be more quantitative. But it's like at every point possible, every title, every conclusion should help point back to that in some way. And I think before I started really working on how to do presentations, I would kind of like do these little digressions, and like my boss would be like, "Why are you showing this? This has nothing to do with what this talk is about." But I felt responsible to just throw everything out there and give them the consume report, as OPS likes to say. And I'm like, no, trim it down to what is only necessary to make your point.
Of the message.
Yeah.
And interesting. So what about your play? So,
Yeah, the NF play. So I think that's also how I know I was an energy dom. Like, Dave and Shan are pretty goofy. And I think I have that in me. Like, when we get into ENTP chat, it's pretty evident sometimes. Some of us are kind of energy
yeah.
doms. Uh, I would say play is definitely something I'm conscious of, though. It's like it's a
Mhm.
demon for me, unlike some of the consume play ENTPs, and I have to like consciously step into it. Because I think on my own, I have a tendency to kind of just be a little more reserved, which, it is what it is. Yeah. But I think what kept me from doing play when I was younger was just like thinking other people cared, like how I looked while doing play and stuff. At the end of the day, I just kind of understand most people are quite self-centered. They're mostly focused on themselves throughout the day. Even if whatever you do is kind of stupid and ridiculous, like that's not going to linger with them for days, hours, months, whatever.
That's true. You mentioned play is something that you have to go consciously. So do you feel like something like sleep and consume, do you do it unconsciously?
Oh yeah, I would almost say, especially during this pandemic, everyone has to kind of go off and be living your own bubble. And I'm like, yo, I do that you don't have to make me
Paradise?
do that. Yeah, you don't have to make me do that. consume and sleep. Consume is the addiction. That is the thing that keeps me up late at night when I should be sleeping because I've like found something interesting to go Google and research.
Yeah.
Um, and sleep is me and my head all day puzzling, you know, uh, trying to take what I've learned from one area. So I have other hobbies, and uh, so I'm also a musician. And sometimes I'll learn something new and immediately want to start trying to pull it into everything else I already know. Like I'll learn a lick on the guitar. I'm like, okay, how can I fit it in this chord progression or whatever? So,
So do you only play guitar, or are you like a producer
uh,
with
so
electronic music?
that's a good, yeah. So just a musician. So just instruments,
So what all instruments do you play?
guitar, and I wouldn't call myself a bass player at this point. Yeah, it's like I can play it, but I like I'd never play it in public.
Yeah. No, I understand. What genres of music do you listen to?
That's yeah. I like a lot of different kinds. I think I grew up listening to like it's like neo soul, R&B, and rap.
Yeah.
I think the more I started playing in my mid 20s, and that had me playing blues and gospel, and uh, I I destroy jazz every now and then. You know, like, I've been attempting to learn some jazz lately. I like funk. I like rock and roll. I appreciate metal, but I'm like I wouldn't play it
Mm.
myself. But like from a technical perspective, I think it's really cool.
Do you like small intricate melodies? Like uh, in neo-soul progression, there's like a melody, and then within like the four bar, there's like lot of notes. Ding. And I love that part.
Yeah, and you know the thing I find so weird is some people can remember lyrics really well, and I can remember the melodies and the progression, the way it should sound. I have to work so hard to remember sound lyrics. Like there have been jam sessions I've gone to, and I was supposed to like lead the song, and like I would just forget the lyrics, and just even songs I've played like for years. It's terrible.
But the melodies is like on point.
Yeah, I can recall. I can hear melodies that I haven't like I'll hear them and I can figure them out on the instrument pretty quickly. Um, but you know, song lyrics, I'd have to be actually hearing the song to recall them sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I understand. So you said you got into music mid 20s, right? How so? So what led up to it?
So I had a lot of free time on my hands. I needed an outlet in grad school, and I was like, yo, I need to do something, you know, just to stay balanced because I was in the lab all the time doing very NTST stuff. And I was in Nashville, you know, that's like Music City. I had a lot of friends who played instruments or had a band or two. So I got a guitar and I kind of hung around them and harassed them every now and then to play with me. And like I'd watch one of them doing a lick or whatever, and I'd kind of take that, go home and deconstruct it, figure out what was going on and why it worked. And then I'd come back next week and I'm like, oh, there's that thing you did, and you know, and then apply to all this other stuff. So learning music wasn't the hard part for me. It's still in the play. It's like sometimes I'm just like I don't really want to seek out band members and stuff.
So you like taking patterns and seeing how this pattern applies in like different context, something
Oh
like
yeah,
that.
I music is kind of I approach it from a very kind of like a nerdy aspect. You know, it's not sufficient for me to just play the song. I tend to get in deep and like, okay, why does it work? Um, you know, like And I think there are assets to it. It means that sometimes a friend of mine commented on, he's like, I don't know how you picked up on all this stuff in a short period of time and started, playing these more challenging songs. And I reflected on it, and I think it really came from just sitting down as I naturally do and pull things apart and apply it to other things. And I think that's what uh like consume in general does. It's like everything I learn usually comes with this idea that I'm gonna use it somewhere else, hopefully.
Do you feel when you do any, or let me reframe this. Let's say I'm talking, or you hear anybody else talk. Are you listening to the sensory, or are you just listening to like patterns? Because I am listening to patterns. Even when, even the sensory that you give me, the only thing I'm like pulling out of it is like different small patterns. It's not connected to any particular sensory. It's just patterns.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting you brought it up because I have a friend that is I don't know if they're SE or not, but probably. I get really irritated when someone gives me all of these details and I'm just like, give me the why. Like, is this just give me the overview? Because I don't do that. And I think I forgot your question. But what am I doing, you said?
Now, when you're listening to someone, are you listening in patterns, or are you just absorbing patterns or extrapolating patterns? Because that's what I'm doing.
Um, well, I don't know if I'd call it patterns, but I think it's more closer to that than caring about the actual order of events and things. I'm more interested in the why. Like, what is this conversation about and where is it going? So, I had a family member describing to me, it was describing to me what their day was like, and I couldn't really figure out where this was going. And I don't know if I was just being impatient or what, but any of my more sensory dominant friends and family, I found myself kind of squirming in my seat because I'm like, okay, this has gone on for like
Yeah.
weeks now.
Hmm. Yeah. Like when you were mentioning about blues, I listen to neo soul. I went, oh, I listen to neo soul as well. Do all the NTPs listen to neo soul? I don't know. But
Yeah,
now I have a pattern. Or maybe all the NTPs do listen to like jazz, bluesy music, and do like to like deconstruct the music theory and like how different chords work, how scales are working, circle of fifths, stuff like that.
yeah,
But that's a pattern, right?
yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if I do know other consume leads in the groups that are into music kind of tend to talk about it from that perspective. I can't say all, but I wouldn't be surprised if some of the thinkers would consume approach music from that perspective, like solving it.
Honestly, I love solving it and then having a melody come out of it. It's such a, I don't know, it's such a neat skill.
Yeah, well, so I've been trying to learn jazz for a while now, and it fascinates me. For example, like you can play the chord progression, but then there are all these back doors. Like you can play two other chords that can substitute for the other two that you could have played. So that's what I mean. Like I find I tend to want to solve music. I mean, it's really enjoyable to listen to, but I like to have all the options available to me, especially when I'm improvising and playing with other people. Just because I'm always like thinking, how can I add something unique to it that's going to make the audience, take more interest and set myself apart from the other guy that just took a solo.
Yeah. Leon is in the chat. What's up, Leon? Uh,
Oh, there's a chat thing down here.
Let me show you.
Oh, hey, Leon. Hey, cool.
Yeah, this is something I was trying to process. I realized I never actually listened to any sensory. I only listened to like patterns of the pattern behind the sensory. Um,
So, what qualifies as a pattern when you're talking to someone?
in our conversation, for instance, you were talking about how how there are it's a three chord progression and there are these back doors. Yeah,
Hmm.
for me, there's nothing like sensory about it. You're not like giving me any name place animal or thing, right? It's
Yeah.
it's like an abstract concept that I can like play with, or it's just like a concept. It is not connected to any sensory yet. Little bit of jazz maybe, but I'm just like remembering that for like some later use.
Hmm.
So let's say jazz has that. Now that's a pattern. Now the question naturally arises: do other progression have this as well? I don't know. Could this be applied to like pop songs? Are they because a a three chord progression having patterns, having a backdoor is a pattern. Yeah, that is sure. So could like a pop song have backdoor as well in their chord progression? I mean, I don't know, but I have possible ways to like think about it, and that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I think for solving things and, you know, like I'll think about it from like the TE perspective. There's like, okay, what works?
Hmm.
And I think from the consume lead perspective, it's like, okay, especially from like an OE perspective, I I'm interested in knowing what works, but I'm counting on the fact that the sensory is going to change, and I want to know all the ways to make it work. It's like
Yeah,
trying to figure out what's going to be the best use for me and hopefully the tribe. And I when I talked about music a second ago, it's the same thing. It's like uh, when you hear a song and it is three chord progressions, it tends to still have movement. It gets boring after a while if you hear a band literally playing those same three chords. So what does the band do? They start playing chords in different parts of their instruments. They start removing certain notes from their chords. It just gives it a different vibe, and that's what I mean by like uh, finding all the available patterns to keep things interesting. And if you're an audience, keeping things interesting is the successful part of something like that.
yeah. No, I agree. That's something I was thinking about. Talk to me about philosophies. Are you into that? Like philosophies in life, and I wouldn't call them a worldview, like epiphanies. Epiphanies,
Uh,
you know.
yeah, I was thinking about that today because I knew we were going to talk. So I've been thinking a lot about, yes, specifically from like an EP perspective. Even before I knew what OPS was, I had already arrived at this idea that in order for me to be okay, I have to believe that things are as they should be. And sometimes that just sounds ridiculous, but accepting, like, finding my part in things and taking responsibility for that, but letting all the other chaos, the things that I'm not okay with, that I don't have control over, let that just be the way it's supposed to be. And I've heard Dave and Shan talk about that to some extent, for the EPs in general. It's like finding peace with the world the way it is. But, that doesn't give you license to not do anything. It's just recognizing what part is yours and what part is not yours.
So it's almost like a variation on acceptance.
Yeah, it really is. It's like it's definitely acceptance because I don't know if you have other EP friends and know like I had a friend of mine send me this article about something they read saying there's no tuna in the tuna at Subway. And I was just like, oh, I mean, was like, when's the last time you ate a Subway? Like, do you really want to let this ruin your day? um, and it's like, I'm gonna choose to leave that alone. You know,
Mhm.
it's a ridiculous example, but
Yeah, I think any like shoulds or shouldn'ts that we place on the world, I think that we need to like accept that, Then there's nothing in the world that should or shouldn't be any certain way.
yeah, because it's like I think just from a demon SI perspective, it's just I get frustrated doing SI like stuff because one, it's time consuming and you're not guaranteed that the things that you have are going to be fit the same way they're supposed to. I mean, like data upkeep and that kind of stuff, I can't stand it. And I've just, the more I move into acceptance around, even when you've done some work and you're at your job or whatever, it's just like learning to be okay with things as they are is extremely challenging and, not ranting about it.
Yeah, shining awareness of it is even more challenging. To even become aware that this is something that I am uncomfortable about, and then accepting that, just becoming aware of it is very challenging.
Yeah, which is so weird when you gotta like talk. I think that's what really separates people as far as like whether you vibe or not. It's like the more aware of your own patterns and what you're willing to work on in your life you are trying to do, it seems to really polarize people and relationships and stuff, which I find kind of weird and fascinating at the same time. It's like because if you're next to them, you start becoming aware of like, well, if they're doing that, then maybe I need to get my act together.
It's so bizarre because it does feel like we do feel that something is not okay, but we don't exactly know what it is. But we almost like, but there's so many things in society that almost medicates us.
Hmm.
TV, YouTube, Instagram. There's so many outlets to just not be aware, to give you like a temporary trance. But when you like come out of the trance, you do notice something off. And I think that dovetails with what you said. Like when you're around other people, it it makes you something is not right in my life. I also have dreams, but what is my dream? And it's you never like went in that rabbit hole.
Hmm. Yeah, but I think the reassuring thing about like self growth in general is like you don't have to get it all done in one day. Like it really is a day in, day out willingness to make the little 1% changes. And the reality is, I think with a lot of people, the difficult thing about trying to move into awareness and stuff is accepting that you're going to have setbacks. Sometimes they're big, sometimes they're small. There are things that I've been working on for years, and I think over a period of time, you'll know that's working because the net gain will show. But if you like zoom in to the micro, like a day or a few hours, it's gonna look like you're not doing so well with this. So I mean, I don't do a great job at like journaling and stuff like that, but sometimes I'll just kind of like run an idea by the tribe, someone that knows me well, and just get their perspective on how is this area of my life changing? Do they see it?
Hmm. Yeah, for me, It's that when I'm encountering the problem, emotions show up, and I know it kind of feels bad or something I'm resisting, but I don't exactly know what I'm resisting. For example, I was trying to like work on my coding, and I'm like, oh my god, there's so much resistance in just programming.
Hmm.
And I knew there was some emotion there. Parent Katie has an emotion chart in her website, and I looked through the chart, right? And there's an emotion called helplessness.
Headlessness?
No, helplessness.
Yeah. Okay.
So I was feeling helpless when I felt stuck programming.
Hmm.
So it made stuff more aware or more clear or more conscious, and I can now question that and work with that. Is this true that I'm not helping myself when I feel stuck?
Yeah. It's interesting. Like you had the awareness to do that. I think it took me a long time to. I think with thinkers in particular, a lot of us just want to get the thing done. And the older I get, the more I realize like I'm much more efficient if I take a step back and acknowledge the feelings for which I think earlier in life I had a much more basic understanding of what different feelings were, like anger, sadness, anxiety, which is kind of nebulous.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I got access to one of those feeling wheels. I was
Yeah.
like, oh my God, there's so much more nuance to this, which can be helpful because there are specific actions that can be taken for helplessness, like, reaching out to someone and
Hmm.
getting help.
Yeah, because once you know the emotion, you know what you can do with it, and you know where you're at, like in the scale of emotions. My very good friend Mandy, she's the one who showed me. I'm like, yo, man, I'm stuck. Like, she's like, oh, have you checked out the emotion wheel? And I'm like, no, what is it? Oh, it's a wheel which just has emotions. Sounds stupid. And yeah, no, I was like, I asked her, what if we get it wrong? What if you got the emotion wrong? What if you're feeling angry, but you labeled it confused or something? And she's like, yeah, it doesn't matter, whatever. And I was like, okay, I thought I'll give it a shot. Just the act of even trying to label your emotion gives it more clarity. I
Yeah,
feel that's where this process starts, really.
I think it's a really good sign when the thinkers are talking about dealing with feelings and the feelers are talking about dealing with thinking. I think that's generally a good sign, like you're in the right direction.
Good sign for what?
Like self growth in general, like trying to do your demons, like,
Yeah.
um, because like for me, when I was typing myself, I typed myself as TI masculine, and it's being aware of my energy around feelings. It's like I can talk about them in a positive way, but the hesitancy and wariness around it sometimes, because I'm not always sure. It's like I have to consciously step into that to try and access what that is, especially to communicate to someone else. So
Yeah,
it's like
it's
I think that's a good sign as far as self growth goes. Like stepping into feelings makes you a more leveled out person.
yeah. It's because we're always thinking, but we are never aware of the tone of the thinking. You're not exactly aware of the tone in which you're thinking it, and
Yeah, and I would say feelings tend to, I don't know if other thinkers would agree, but I'm definitely aware of sensations in my body before any meaning behind them. And
I
I
have
can,
that as well.
yeah, it's almost like you're being hijacked, like mentally, like what is this feeling? And then just having to, me being sleep savior, I'll just go find a corner and go process. But and like kind of do, I used to do like a little systems check. I'm like, okay, am I hungry? Am I lonely? Am I tired? That kind of thing.
Um, yeah, no, 100%. I feel that as well. I feel it in my body, especially like in chest, stomach, or something like that, or in my throat. And I feel those are like triggered at certain moments. I feel like when I want to communicate something, but I haven't, but I don't, just because, but I really want to, but I don't. I feel it in my throat, and I'm like, I feel really bad in my throat. But why is it? I don't know.
Yeah. For me, it was the stomach. I remember just being really anxious before these presentations and stuff I had to do. And like I'd have it all organized, but I was like, why am I still anxious? Or even before knowing it was anxiety. And I wish I had an answer for that other than just acceptance kind of works, but it's just,
Acceptance works if you know what you're accepting. Like, here's my TI on that. I feel like acceptance, what you're accepting is that, or what you're giving up. Let me rephrase this because acceptance is a tricky word, right? So let
yeah.
me, I feel like make some distinctions. I feel like the person who's accepting is not you, is your higher self. Your higher self is accepting, and the way the higher self can accept is when the lower self gives up the pleasure or the juice or the payoff or the expectation it has on the external reality. You
Mm.
follow me? For example, there are certain people that don't understand, like for example, anger. It's not a very pleasant sensation. But what it is basically doing is trying to align the external reality to its internal belief through sheer force. And when the reality does align to the internal belief, there is a payoff that the ego gets. And I
Mm.
feel acceptance is your higher self letting go of the payoff and accepting that, okay, I might not get payoff and it's fine.
And I think something we could add to that is acceptance is accepting things are the way they are right now and that they're going to change as well.
Mm,
And that gave me a lot of relief whenever I had to go and do something like kind of emotionally stressful. It's like it's going to feel weird and uncomfortable now, but chances are I won't feel like this 30 minutes from now.
yeah. Even accepting the positivism.
Yeah, like accepting this is a moment in time. This is not forever. And I think that's one of the paralyzing things about doing our demons. It's like the fear that whatever we're going to experience is going to hit us indefinitely. And really, there's a finite amount of time. Sometimes it's longer than we care to stick with it, but it's going to change at some point.
How would you describe the willingness to even start helping yourself in the first place? Because that itself is a big first step, right?
Yeah, and I think that's a really great question because I had such a difficult time trying to build habits into my life.
Mm.
Because like I find something I want to build into my life, like meditation or going for a run or whatever. And first of all, I just was like, dude, you gotta start small. And because that was like trying to build habits out of passion and desire or need. But for me, what I think what I was looking for was like day in, day out, just wake up and be willing to try. And willingness is this weird combination of acceptance of what you're trying to do, as well as acceptance of knowing that you're not going to be where you want to be, like immediately. That's the way I've approached it. Like, because I want everything like tomorrow, and just accepting like whatever I'm walking through, like just show up, just 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 get the thing done as best you can, and then maybe we'll do it again tomorrow.
Do you feel that there's an aspect of desire as well? A
Yeah,
desire for something bigger?
Yeah, I struggle with desire though because it's not something I always have. Like willingness is something to work on too, but um, desire can change based on like other priorities or that's the main one for me.
You feel a desire should be.
Should be. Oh no,
No, she said Daddy Dion.
I know she
Yeah,
did.
it
But
cracked me up. Yeah,
oh my goodness, she.
because I do feel there is like a pull, which is greater than the moment you're being in right now.
There's a moment greater than the moment you're in right now. So what you say?
No, for example, let's say for me the self-help itself, I'm being I'm willing to work on myself because in myself somewhere I believe or I can feel, it's not a belief, it's more like a knowingness that you could do so much more. Only if you got this together.
Yeah, I think I've definitely experienced that. However, I've had to also like keep that balanced with like expectations that are very reasonable. By reasonable meaning like there's what I planned and this is what I actually have energy and time to actually do. And when I would come down to like this is what's reasonable, I would actually like lose desire because it's like why try, why bother? And it's definitely a difficult spot to be in sometimes.
I have read many books on this, and the process really seems to be you set an intention, have a desire, set an intention, and then you let go of the desire. And it's not just that you let go of the desire, it's like you have a desire first and then let go of it through acceptance, peace, love. You know what, I can still be happy even if I don't have this. And that entire process, when you're having that I'm take it or leave it attitude, seems to get it. You seem to like have it, but here's a paradox though. When you do get it, it wouldn't add anything in your life because you're already like complete. You know what I mean?
That's like sounds like the opposite of like a law of attraction or something.
It is not is not the opposite of law of attraction, because what law of attraction says is within you can manifest what
Mm,
within. So you have everything right here right now. So whatever emotions or pleasure or sensations you can get when your expectation is fulfilled, you can give yourself that right now.
mm-hmm.
And when you give yourself that right now, then whatever you expectation you had would tend to manifest is the law of attraction. For example, let's say I want a watch. All right. So I wanted this watch in 2018. It's a Seiko automatic, and this is like I'm in Bangalore in India, almost like homeless, right? Like I'm like thinking, should I buy this watch? And I said, no, it's okay. But then that was 2018, and years passed, and it's like whatever, that watch is like whatever. But today I had the opportunity, or on my birthday I had the opportunity to buy it. So I bought it, and I have it now, the exact watch.
Mm-hmm.
However, it's not like my life is like better or like admire it thing. Let's say something happens to that watch tomorrow, it doesn't feel like I would lose anything,
Yeah.
because what I wanted, I gave that to myself back in 2018 or 19. However, I feel like if I didn't have the desire in the first place of wanting that watch, Today I wouldn't have it.
Hmm.
And I feel that kind of encapsulate law of attraction, at least the way I understand it.
Right. Yeah, it's not something I've given a whole lot of thought. It's I think the story of my life has generally looked like being sick and tired of being sick and tired of my own shit. And I would hope that most people don't have to move into a state of desperation to do their demons or like do the things that are probably going to bring you more happiness despite a little bit of momentary pain. But it's like not everyone gets that opportunity and privilege to even try to improve their lives. They just get stuck in a loop of doing their saviors, so to speak. So I sometimes get a lot of gratitude out of knowing that I'm aware and that I get to deal with the stuff that's a little scary, but will also make me a better person. Um, because I'd spent years. I remember when I was going to therapy for a period of time. It felt like she was just dropping gems in my hands, and I was like, "How did I not see this?" And some people don't even get that.
Do you feel in some way that this point of desperation is almost needed, and that's what makes life fun? Like in a music, you know how you have the tension and release, but that's what makes music.
You mean like desperation makes you appreciate things more?
Yeah, yeah. Because think about it. Right? Think about it this way. Let's say a song just had a drop, no build up, just drop. It wouldn't be a drop, you know. It just be a. It wouldn't make sense. So you need like the build up.
Oh, like context, like having
Yeah,
knowing what's good now
the
versus
entire ebb and flow of, oh, you're doing your savior, so you ignored your demons, now you're working on demons, and now you come to appreciate more, and this entire like story is like a dance.
yeah. Well, I put it like this. I think you can definitely. I wouldn't say you can appreciate it more, but it makes it easier to appreciate. Like, say you get to the other side of something difficult in your life, you can
Mm.
appreciate it because you have a reference point. However, I wouldn't always say desperation is necessary because people can get stuck there. It's desperation doesn't always necessarily turn into action, and we see
I
that all.
think I think desperation would give you the motivation to get back to your baseline. However, I do feel willingness is what would like push you forward. I
Yeah,
feel everyone has like a baseline. You like go below it, and now you're desperate to go back to your normal. However, you go back to your normal, and you're at the same place again. And after that, you need like the willingness to like.
yeah, it's because we I've definitely seen that at various stages of my life. Like, get desperate, do just enough to pull yourself out of the hole, and then slide back in there. Like it's that constant. People get stuck there all the time. But willingness is just this conscious decision that's made to do more than get yourself out the hole. And it doesn't necessarily even look like doing everything right. It's just more like doing something more than you did last time, perhaps. You know, I relate to Dave and Shan talking about those different alpha states and stuff like that. For people, it's like you don't have to be killing it in every area of your life, but doing more than you feel responsible for, um, I think is necessary. Because if you just do the bare minimum, you're going to get bare minimum results.
Willingness is something that is really mysterious in nature because I don't feel any word could, any sequence of words could get you to a point where a person who was not willing before would now become more willing to do something. I mean, you could of course ask open-ended questions where the person comes up with his own stuff and now he becomes more willing.
Hmm.
However, the choice to move in a certain direction that feels right to you is something that I feel is beyond human.
Yeah, I think willingness is really weird because you're moving against your basic instincts, your natural desires, in the hope that it will put you in a position that will make you happier. Um, which is really bizarre to me, it's conscious as well. Like
Yeah.
you're not in a dream. And sometimes being willing comes with uh momentary discomfort. So, that's what I mean by like you're moving against your instinctual desires. But I think over time you just get desensitized and motivated to do more. I think that's for me like the part about accepting and moving into growth in whatever area of your life you're trying to improve. It's like committing to do that little bit you wanted to put you over the edge. It just gets easier because it's after a while the repetitiveness makes it easier. And you start like, hey, maybe if I do a little more, maybe I'll get more benefits.
I was I was actually I was actually processing my stuff. I did an interview, not interview. I spoke to Byron Katie,
Yeah.
and she was like, "Oh, you need to narrow down your sensory, honey." I said, okay, damn. Uh, yeah. So I was doing like the work. The first question itself is like so stressful because I could see, it's something like, "Oh, I'm not productive." Okay, I feel disappointed because I'm not productive. Okay, what does that look like in the sensory? Just being productive. Oh, I go to gym. I need to do my university stuff. Become good at coding. Become epic at film editing. Learn music theory. All this stuff. Okay, even these are like specific, less abstract, yet still abstract. Okay, what are these look like? Go more sense. And I realized I feel every resistance comes with like a package of negative beliefs that you see yourself or even the world with. And the I feel that's why willingness is so hard because you have to like consciously deal with them. However, when you're suffering, there's like an unconscious bypass because the suffering is just so much that the payoff that you're getting from seeing the world in the certain light doesn't make sense anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Suffering leading to like desperation is really interesting because uh desperation can get you moving.
Yeah.
It'll get you like you won't content like me being sleep savior. I definitely spend way too much time contemplating decisions. But if you're in a state of desperation, you're really not thinking about where you're not thinking about what, when, where. You're just like, how can I get into a different state and condition? Anything's better than the current position. Um, but I think desperation is really hard to live on, and desperation is really hard to have consistent change because if you keep moving back into desperation, is the change you're really doing beneficial for you in the first place? Maybe a new plan needs to be built.
Would it be long lasting? I don't think so.
Well, I think we'd like things to be long lasting, but I think the truth is everything requires some level of maintenance and an upkeep, which is one of the most difficult things for me, that because you have to make a conscious decision again
Hmm.
to get in there and do something.
There's a thing with TI and pursuit of truth. Do you feel it's something that you're pursuing, or even something that you contemplate about, like the truth?
Yeah, yeah. I think at first I didn't really relate to that because I know like Tom has this whole like personal truth thing. I didn't think I had that until recently, and I think the words I tend to use are like authentic self, which is somewhat similar. It's like I don't want to move against what I believe is true for me and my direction in life, where I'm trying to go. I think that's probably the closest thing I have to it. But I don't have like a list of those things. It's just when I encounter something that I have a reaction to, I'm like, yo, this conflicts with my personal truth.
What does it mean to you being authentic? Because
Uh,
it's just not be yourself.
what does it mean to me to be what?
Authentic?
Attentive?
No, authentic. Isn't
Authentic?
that
Oh,
authentic?
authentic. It's like, and this is where I have to like be kind of level measured about it. It's like moving throughout the world in a way that keeps me from acting against my best intentions, as well as minimizing harm to others. I remember when I was younger, really struggling with, so a lot of people, masculine TI gets hell sometimes because other people view it as kind of harsh and grating just because it's not cutting corners with delivering internal truth, I guess you could say. And I remember really doing my best. Like I experienced at an early age, like this is not cool. People don't like that. But at the sacrifice, I would move and be a chameleon of sorts, and put me in a position where like I'm in a demon state all the time, like getting into not connected to my own identity. Like trying to fit in with people that I probably didn't want to actually fit in with. That kind of thing. Uh, So I think there's definitely a balance that has to be struck with like having the masculine TI and moving in your best intentions, but at the same time like not pissing off people just for the sake of it. Like read the room is growth for masculine TI.
Reading the room requires you to even know how you come across. However, I find it really hard to know how I come across.
I think I think I've had a lot of trial and error, honestly. So I'm pretty sure like my mom probably has math. Uh, I think she has Savior TE, and she wasn't shy about telling me when I was going into like a self-report. I remember specifically one time her telling me, "Okay, like, are you gonna ask me about me?" Like getting feedback from people around me that actually were trying to tell me, and listening to them is one way to go about it. But I read Robert Greene's book laws of human nature, that kind of stuff. I picked up his book just because I was like, okay, here's someone that's similar to my type.
They are very
I'm really
close.
interested to process because like I still kind of struggle with like my how I'm viewed by the tribe and what the tribe thinks of me. So I was like, well, I'll read his book, and I've learned some interesting insights to help me understand like from his perspective, similar to me, what's going on. And the other part is just I see the EJs, like the ENFJs, the ESFJs. It's FE is like not just tracking vibe is a lot of things. It's like body language, tone of voice, eye contact. I think I had an aptitude for it after a while, but was just choosing to not align with it.
No, I definitely relate. I feel both perspectives NF and SD both I feel provide value. And well, let me put it this way. I feel all four quadrants provide value in different flavors. And I feel like the authentic self is like a marriage of all four perspectives, Because when an here if Leon is listening to this, he would be very happy. Because there's a guy called Richard Cooper, and he like gives advice, right? I think some IP, read DI, yeah. Super harsh. This is what's going on, pa 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 pa, and it doesn't like vibe well. There's no vibe. He's like, this is the truth. You either take it. This is what's happening. Yeah, you either
Mm.
take it or leave it. Yeah. So like full TI, zero FE. But there are like other people who are more NF who talk about like the energy of stuff rather than the actual sensory because what they cannot communicate the logic or the sensory. So they talk about it's like when a child is getting cookie and it gets caught by the mom, but the mom forgives the child and gives the cookie. That's the kind of energy. There's nothing sensory, but it's still like a beautiful perspective. And for me, I found it really upsetting. I mean, something I personally didn't want. I didn't want to have like a very uh, automaton perspective on world. I wanted something the world. I wanted to view the world in a more abstract, beautiful way. But something that still works.
It's interesting you brought up like how we kind of know how we can improve the FE for Demon FE users. And interesting, I think that actually typing people, so I say the reasons why I joined the OPS class and stuff was not to become like the best typist or anything, although I'm trying. It was more so about just trying to jump into other people's perspectives better so that one, I can figure out like how to relate to people in my personal life and my work better, just, to keep good positive energy there. And the other was just troubleshoot things before they happen. And in the process of trying to learn how to type people better, it's like in order to type someone, we have to take stock of the energy around their stories. And to me, that's vibe checking. That's getting a sense of, okay, they're in a negative state. And if I was in this conversation, it's like, how can I help diffuse this? Is this even possible?
Yeah. Says yeah, totally. See where they're coming from. Understand. This is actually something Emily was telling me, and I'm like, whoa. There's something Emily was telling me, and I'm like, whoa, that sounds really interesting. And the entire act of just understanding the story, just understanding the vibe of what they're saying, I feel I can do it, but I don't feel I can do it to myself. For example, I understand. Let's say I know you're sad, so I try to comfort you or whatever. But then, how am I coming across trying to comfort you? That's something I should become unconscious of because now I'm play energizing, right?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if we have to be responsible for checking our own vibe in the moment all the time. Like that's a tall order. Uh, I think at first just making sure we're not adding fuel to the flame and checking the external vibe can go a long way. And
Hmm.
then, through sleep, step away and process the chain of events and like what is your part in it. I don't, like when I've had conflict, that's how I've done it. Like I'll be in it, see the
Uh, Yeah, that's what even Emily said. Like hard to see, but you can track the reactions, and that will tell you directly. Yeah, totally.
I also like checking. So we talked about the thinkers moving into awareness about our. I think we're better at checking our bodies and how we feel, like physically, more so than attaching labels to those changes in the body. And I've just kind of gotten a sense of now, like, oh, if my stomach's starting to feel weird and awkward, I'm probably anxious and I might need to like get out of here, you know?
No, I understand. So what is like a final thing that you would like to end all this with of the
Uh,
authentic self?
I'd just say, I think the main takeaway I have from my growth up to this point looks like change is gradual, and the sooner we accept that, the easier and more gratifying it'll be. You just really forcing myself to just be in the moment has been the source of a lot of gratitude in my life the past few years. And as far as how what I'm doing relates to EPs go, it's like if you're an observer and an EP, it's like the sooner you can just accept what you're responsible for and take care of that and let the world do what it's gonna do. I think you'll be okay a lot sooner, I guess.
Talk to me about gratitude. What is that for you?
Uh, Gratitude. That's a complex one. I think gratitude is as much a feeling as it is an action. So I'm self above tribe as hell, and I notice that when I'm in gratitude, I'm reaching out to the people around me more often and finding ways to be useful and helpful. Um,
Yeah.
'Cause, when I'm not in gratitude, like, dude, I'm like, yo, what is my plan? What am I trying to do? Just, but gratitude, I get that when some people say it's a feeling, but for me, it's an action because it's like I'm reaching outside of myself and trying to share that with other people.
Yeah. Yeah. So here she says, remember that Emily stuff? She says, yeah, it's hard to see the track reactions. And she asked, is that sleep high? And Julia responded, yeah, it might be SI sleep.
Julia, yeah. Yeah, I like this post Joey made in the Facebook group about what sleep is doing versus like sleep blast and sleep consume. And I was like, yeah, that's pretty much it. Like, I've never really struggled with identity, we'll call it. I'm always processing where I'm at, and I'm always just kind of self-evaluating, which is really annoying sometimes. And the problem with having sleep high is it keeps you from, if you're not willing, it just keeps you from taking action in your life, especially if you're not sleep blessed. You're just like, these are my problems, and I'm not motivated to move on any of them. So,
I find myself processing identity a lot as well.
cool.
Yeah.
And it's like, a part of it is definitely processing my own identity, but uh, trying to find the order in things. I think sleep is doing a lot of that, specifically SI sleep. Like, and it's weird being consumed sleep as far as the EP goes because I didn't think I was having observer problems, but looking back, I can tell it for me. Observer issues are more like this paranoia and constant threat of something going wrong that I have not taking the effort to start dealing with. I don't really have these massive like observer freakouts usually.
Observer freakouts. What does that look like, Demon SI?
The main thing is just like not being responsible for like. organizing my outside world. That includes like I have some inventory I have to keep track of at my job, and like I will find all kinds of things to do but that. I remember like I'll be like cleaning my desk that day or clean my lab bench or something like that. And when really I need to go like organize some data and paperwork. Um, and just habitual upkeep of things.
Hmm.
That stuff's pretty hard for me. It sounds ridiculous, but it really stresses me out sometimes.
Give me an example. Like what?
So a few months ago, I saw my tires air pressure was getting kind of low, and I was like, okay, it's
Hmm.
fine, it's fine. And it never got too bad, but then I like hit a pothole, and then I drove away, and then the tire, because it was on low tire pressure, I had put myself in a position where I had to go get a whole new tire. And I was like, had I just taken care of things at the first moment, it would have been fine, you know? Um,
Yeah,
it's like it's little stuff that if I don't take care of, it becomes big stuff.
that's annoying.
Yeah, and it's like, especially when it's like I have no one else to blame but myself.
Hmm.
She said, "Do I have really bad don't control me bros?" I think I didn't think I had it until a few months after processing it. I used to think it was just masculine TI stuff, but something I hear other self over top EPs say is like manipulation. Like I, I've had that happen, and I've used those words. Like any attempts at what feel like manipulation, I'm like less than savory. Um, or like when people try to impose ideas on me, like in a project that I just think are stupid, I can't I can't help but I just no fe. I think I'm much better than I used to be, but or like being like sometimes I find myself going out of my way not to walk into certain stores. Like I don't want to feel like I'm being manipulated or uh someone's trying to persuade me to do things. You know, like buy whatever they want me to buy. Like it just brings out a visceral reaction from me. Oh yeah. So Emily's talking about sometimes I've gone to family events where people are like, so when are you gonna do this, that, and the other? Like when are you gonna get married or something? And it just brings out this like, I'll do it when I want, you know? But like, we'll be kind of an asshole about it.
Yeah, I have that as well.
Yeah, it's like I don't like being told what to do. Like in a very people say that, but like it shows up in all of my life decisions.
Mhm. I wouldn't say all aspect of my life. There are some things that I would rather prefer someone else just splashed, and I could be like, okay, whatever. Like enough stuff, it doesn't. It's like okay, whatever, because it's just so movable for me. I already clash with like SD stuff. Like, but
Yeah,
if someone comes and gives me like a SI or something, I'll be like, oh, you're supposed to like do this, 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 and they say it like a feminine way. I'm like super receptive. I'm like, yeah, sure, just thanks, I guess. Yeah.
yeah, I should rephrase. It's like I don't like being told what to do without good reason. Like like I knew I would have had a difficult time in the military or something just because like I need reasons, like show me this benefits me and everyone else. And I like being in positions where I have some freedom to do what I want and problem solve and bring something useful in my own way. So in my current work, like I'm really paid to problem solve, and I think that's what I'm really good at. And I'm trusted to do that. And I don't necessarily have someone saying you have to do things this way.
recommend this bullshit to me, even though I don't like.
I don't like being told what to do. It's a good show.
Yeah, no, 100%. And she says I fully relate to the masculine TI. It's not. Yeah,
Dude, I feel so bad too, because
yeah.
masculine TI catches hell in the group sometimes, and I get it. Sometimes it's deserved, but I feel like in some ways, like masculine FI, it's really misunderstood. I think the good thing is though, like I'm generally tracking it, and like I'll keep it in check, but I definitely had moments trying to problem solve with groups of people, and I'm like, guys, this is wrong. Like trying to build language around how to be helpful and not be dismissive of other people's thoughts and opinions has been, you know, a good bit of my life. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes, Ian.
What is that? What do you
Well,
understand when he says FE persuasion? What does that mean?
so I I don't like feeling like someone is trying to move me without me knowing. Does that make sense? Like usually when I'm getting persuaded to do something, like let's at least acknowledge both of us that that's what you're trying to do. I hate feeling like the other person. It almost feels condescending. I'm sure that's probably not their intention, but I hate feeling like you're trying to get one over on me, and that I'm not aware. Sometimes I kind of just go along with it just to mess with them, and but I'm
That's the
learning
lie
that.
we tell ourselves.
But yeah, but I'm more likely to be like, okay, just level with me. What are you trying to do? Just
Hmm. Yeah, no, I understand. So, do you feel like it's almost like a frame, the frame of the situation that a person is like coming with that has certain implications that you personally don't agree with?
yeah, I think I would be fine with being persuaded by FE if it was acknowledged up front, like, hey, I'm gonna try and sell you on this great idea. I don't even know if that's FE per se, but like let's not let what this is be a mystery, is what I'm trying to get at. Because I know and you know, and let's not make it weird. Uh,
Have you had any weird interactions in the past that you can share?
ah, well, I remember when I was like bringing ideas to other people in my field, and I would get a sense of what their pet project was, and they try to build it into what I was doing, and like try to sell me on the idea. And I was like, I know what you're doing, but this is triggering because this is not the plan. Like try to make it in alignment, like not an add-on, for
What if someone comes to you and says, Deon, this is what the tribe feels about you, yeah, so you should think this way?
well, I've had something, I don't think I've had this exact thing happen, but when it does, I usually take a step back and, first I'll take it in, then I'll ask if it's true. And what that looks like is, I'll go through the sensory, like, okay, what did I do? And then I'll decide if I care or not, which is probably bad. But
You know what's funny here? It's like you never question the, oh, tribe feels this way about you. I feel like both of us just kind of accept that. Oh, the
yeah,
tribe feels this way. You
well,
know,
I feel like the tribe could be wrong. Like,
I feel the way tribe reached there could be wrong. The TI of that. But I don't feel like what they're feeling is invalid. Or,
right. Well, I feel like if when I get tribe negativity, I generally feel like there's usually some sort of misunderstanding or something going on. That's usually the case. And I don't immediately get like bent out of shape about it or upset. I kind of just walk myself through it and just try to figure out how did they get there.
Mm,
And if I did something, and usually if I did something that makes someone not like me, it was probably intentional, and and I don't really care. But if I did something and it wasn't intentional, I'm gonna like figure out how is it true, and go make an amends if necessary. But I
mm.
would say I don't immediately like take it in and like, oh God, I'm a terrible person. Chris Moss does that, the kidnappers label and
Yeah.
signal. I'm gonna tell you how you're gonna feel. I'll feel that, then think you're smart for having known it. I don't know if I understand what she's talking about. People like that.
Yeah, it's advanced SIFE tactics, Deon. It's beyond our realm of understanding.
She's
Yeah.
comparing me to Buddha. Yeah, it's like I would say usually it's very rare that the tribe I like and this is one of the reasons why I type myself as TISE consume sleep play blast. So as a decider and sensory. And what I didn't recognize in my typing video was like there's a whole lot of double deciding going on. And so I'm not usually blindsided by tribe stuff. It's like if I did something, I know what I did and I probably don't care, or there's some sort of misunderstanding happening. But I don't,
Misunderstanding.
yeah, like there's some sort of miscommunication happening. Um, but I don't immediately take it in and be like, oh God, I'm a terrible person. And I don't necessarily think I'm wrong either. Um, I'm like, okay, then we probably are both wrong, or you just don't understand me.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah. You feel there are other sorts of persuasion other than FE?
Other sources of misunderstanding, is that?
No, no, persuasion. Like,
Oh,
how else could a person see, be persuaded?
yeah, that's a good question. See, the reason why I don't know if we would call what TE like persuasion is like playing to the chemicals and the energy of someone to get them on your side. I don't know, like TE wouldn't do that, like move chemicals and energy to do that. So persuasion might be unique to FE. I mean, someone else could chime in. Like TE is going to be or like, look, we can get this done yesterday. Harping on how efficient and time saving and all that kind of stuff.
That is kind of, yeah.
Which, I mean, which could move someone's chemical state. Honestly, if you were desperate to get something from someone and they told you they could play to your urgency and getting the thing you want. So I guess persuasion is maybe not unique to FE, but FE is unique in that it's going to move the chemicals around it. Like maybe, you know, make you feel like, no, I'm not going to ramble on that.
I was talking to Julia about, she has an amazing series about evolution. I don't know if
Mm,
you watched it, but I feel like what an extroverted function does in a tribe, everyone has their own DI, and the extroverted function almost tries to like creates a harmony among the tribe.
yeah, I could see
Yeah.
that. Yeah, and I really value that and the people around me today. I think I'm not an asshole because of people around me, like my mom or good friends that have good TE and good FE. So I've been told much younger, like it's just what I want to do, you know. Um, but yeah, I really like what TE and FE are doing as far as because that's how you get movement as a community. Um, but it's individuals that have good ideas or that can really make progress if they can present it to some. Because like me, I decided I was like, I don't really want to be a project leader because I don't want to be responsible for. I'm not like a big project leader. Like I didn't want to run a lab. Is what I'm trying to say. Because you're responsible for managing everyone's progress and ideas. And I was like, I kind of want like a smaller team where like I'm the main person creating the ideas and everyone else just executes it. Um,
No, I agree.
It's like because what TE is doing sometimes is still it's a lot like facilitating the organization and gathering ideas and workflows of many other people and distributing it. I have a hard time seeing that. Like, it's I think TE is definitely the one I struggle the most with when I have to do like group projects because I get the sense that when I have to work with TEs, the level of clarity around their project ideas is not clear enough. And then we run into these problems when someone goes off and works over here. They aren't clear on the SI, the details on how to get from A to B. And then it leaves the TIs to figure out actually how to make it work, which happens more than I care to admit.
Yeah, I feel FE itself as a function is super underappreciated because you are doing all this background check for everyone in the tribe, making sure everyone has like an emotional harmony. Let's say let's say someone hurts you, or you felt hurt by someone, and I feel like the FEs are the ones who like go process the emotions behind the back of the tribe and brings like the tribe to a harmony with the situation. So like everyone like almost comes unscathed, or the harmony is still maintained, preserved.
Yeah, I feel like good FE is other than like need for a community, like, survival. Like FE is to me that thing that makes people want to stick together even in like hardship. I mean, I'm probably making it more dramatic than it needs to be, but um, I wonder if it's like could also be attached to things like loyalty and because those types of traits really bypass you know certain situations where you might be better off alone. Like and I'll have to think about that some more.
I understand. I feel I feel FE is underappreciated because it's when done right, you're not supposed to be able to perceive the harmony that you're maintaining. But also, I feel just in the MBTI community, if you put that lens over, it's almost crucified for not being authentic.
Yeah. Well, I think in general, there's just a demon FE and FI bias. Well, I'm sorry, there's a bias against FE and FI in these MBTI like communities. Just because, especially amongst men, it's like feeling is not masculine. I think a lot of people have to detach perceptions around strength and masculinity, pull that away from what cognitive functions are.
No, 100% I agree.
Exactly. We've seen so many people, especially guys, come in and type themselves savior thinker, and it's like, nah, thinking is not what you think it is.
Hmm. No, I agree. We should like wrap up soon because we spoke for like 2 hours almost. However, I would like to ask you about the first question that I asked, where you said something about blast bringing a unique perspective. Like you really blast if you felt like you had a unique perspective.
Yeah.
So,
So go ahead.
so would you say that it's almost that you're trying to build, for example, the dissertation that you mentioned before? So you're trying to present a unique perspective that is never said before, or is it something that's just a consequence of the way you consume and sleep?
I think it is this need to not go over known information again. Like, and that was a struggle when I had to do like writing, like dissertations and stuff, because the whole premise on why you're doing it is to describe what you did that it sets you apart from everything
Yeah,
else that's previously done. And I see that also when I need to blast, because I have this perception that I'm trying to break, that everything that I have consumed is already known information. In reality, like, we don't know what is known information. And blast last tends to make me prioritize consuming and checking the vibe and getting an understanding of all the details and the current situation before I feel like I'm responsible to introduce my own. Um, yeah, I think that's the gist of it. Yeah.
let me give you another example with jazz. So would you blast music theory only if you felt that the music theory that you have is unique to the consume that you gathered?
Yeah. Well, I think there's a few reasons why I wouldn't just blast music theory at people, and I think it is relevant to like blasting in general. It's like, first is interest. Like, I want to get a sense of who my audience is and are they even interested? And and I'll kind of do everything but ask them before I feel like I should, which probably is just kind of messed up. You know, you're like, hey, would you like to hear about music theory? And as funny as I see the people at play, they just jump in. They don't, for example, when I want to blast stuff about music or video games I'm interested in, I go and find communities that are already doing it. Whereas I see the people with like play or blast higher, they'll just, wherever they are, like even in the OPS groups, will just drop the thing in their DI down, and they wait for people to be attracted to that. Which is, I'm like, yeah, I guess that works. You know.
100%. Yeah, but thanks, Dion, for coming in.
Yeah, it was
Really
good.
loved our conversation. Let
Yeah.
me see if there are any questions or not. Uh, it's like, yeah, don't want to share old stuff. Yeah, and even Emily agrees. Everything I want to say must already be known. Mm. Yeah, that's about it.
All
All
right.
right, guys, I'll see you in the next video. Uh, bye.
See ya.